manager best practices. So we're starting with auditing your data, because how are you going to know what needs to be changed and fixed if you don't do an initial assessment, right? So first we want to identify data assets and prioritize based on value. So basically you have to think about which of your company's solutions contain customer data. Most likely it's almost all of them. So then you have to think about which pieces of data have the most commercial value to you. Some companies might look at that and say, oh, definitely email addresses. Another company might look at it and say, definitely social media followers. Once you determine those important assets, you have to rank them. And I cannot stress this enough. Whether you're doing a CRM data security assessment, or if you're buying a CRM, or literally any piece of software, ranking features is one of the most important things you can do. And the reason for that is because in this particular case, I'll talk about auditing your data, and then I'll also talk about how that applies when buying software. But for auditing your data's purposes, you want to know as you go through this process, you're going to clean your data, you're going to establish rules for your data. You have to keep in mind exactly what the most prioritized actions have to be, and the only way to do that is to have those assets ranked. If email addresses are just as important as social media, that's not going to help you. You have to know what is my number one, what is my number two, and what's my number three. And that's a crossover into software buying. If you're looking at a software, I'll just use CRM because obviously we're most familiar with that one. We've had customers who say, well, I want this, 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 and this. Well, those are all great things, but when you go out into the CRM universe and you start researching these companies, you see that they give you this laundry list of all these different features, right? So now you're being distracted by all the shiny objects, and you start to get overwhelmed because you think, well, that could be cool or that could be nice. What prioritizing a list does is keep you focused on the task at hand and keep you focused on what's most crucial for your business. There are things that are nice to have, but it's better to know the need to haves and to stay focused on those first to know that all of your business needs are going to be met. So that's a big one. After you've identified those top 3 or 5 most crucial commercial value assets, then you have to interview your team leaders. You can talk to department heads, managers, other leaders, find out who's using the data, how are they using it, where are they accessing it? So is it just the desktop? Are they using it on their mobile phone? Maybe you have a lot of sales reps in the field. There's something to consider, your mobile security. And then are there any problems that they might encounter accessing that way? And I know in a previous webinar in this series, Matt was talking about a client that he had that was using a mobile application, and she was on a unsecured network, and they got hacked and all their data was compromised. So those are things that we have to consider if we have a lot of field sales agents or people outside of the office working remotely. Things that also may come up are, wrong phone numbers or outdated email addresses. So interviewing team leaders gives you an idea of what their particular sector is struggling with, and then you can start to compile those. And then you want to look at access restrictions. You want to grant access based on hierarchical, that's a toughie, as needed basis, so only relevant to certain team members. Decide who those relevant team members are by getting feedback from the team leaders, and then implement that. So, for example, the entire sales department probably needs access to customer information like email addresses and phone numbers, but maybe only certain members of upper management are handling the invoices. So maybe it's not important for certain people to have access to those invoices. Things to think about.